was dark, your lights were bright. You pulled me over and I wasn't feeling so right. Stepped up to the car, rolled my window down, handed you my license registration with the frown. But I could tell by the look in your eyes that you'd be going for a ride in the passenger side, and you wouldn't be issuing any citation. But you told me out the car, pulled my arms up too far, made me walk the line and shine that flashlight in my eyes, made me say the alphabet backwards with your cousin cars, searched my pockets and took all my bars. You know the night is dark and lonely without you by my side. I hear your sirens running high.
It's showtime from Montreal, Canada, and I'm Barry Anderson. I want to thank the Warsaw Poland Brothers getting us off on a show called Truth. Today's going to be one of the best shows we've ever had here on Truth. I've got a guest today that I'm going to interview in a couple of minutes, a fellow by the name of Rino Magi, Alberino, but everybody calls him Rino. And, I've been covering court business for 10 years now on a show called Truth, and I've been criticizing the legal system in Canada, not that it's better anywhere else. And of course, anybody who's used to listening to me knows that my biggest complaint ever is that September the 17th, 1993, a fellow by the name of Mark Machal, who had been a criminal working for the Montreal police since 1989 at that time. For 4 years, he was one of those what we call police informants. That means the guy who's got carte blanche to commit crimes, burglaries all over the place. He was working for the police, most specifically a guy by the name of Poirier, Raymond Poirier, the detective. And Raymond Poirier got on my case. The Montreal Urban Community Police decided they wanted to go after me. And so, as we all know, Sid Bagdasco paid for over 11,000 hours of personal surveillance, not counting the thousands of hours that the police spent on me, leading to a jury trial that I did alone, and I got acquitted, as we know, wearing shackles and handcuffs in front of a jury. And the reason I've been complaining about that is that Mark Machal, his coded number was 89. That's the year he started working for Montreal police, and his number was 123. That way they can protect his identity, except that for my case, Mark Machal turned around, made a deal with the police that the government of Quebec gave him $550 a week almost for life, and was going to send him for courses, him, his wife, and 2 kids. We're going to have new identity and all kinds of stuff. And I've been screaming and yelling to everybody. In the meantime, I had Julian Scher, the producer of Fifth Estate, came to my house not long after my acquittal. But the trouble is, Julian Scher was more interested in a story about people that brainwash other people to do crimes for them. And the minute he found out that the police had, in effect, paid for that bomb on September the 17th, 1993, paid for with money given by the Montreal police. And this guy, Mark Machal, made the building. When it didn't go off, he panicked. There were 6 kids in the building. Make a long story short, if you listen to my earlier shows, I spent over 4 months in jail before I could get acquitted by jury. And I'm taking an interest in this Rino Magi situation because Rino is before the courts, and we can't get into details because, Rino, I don't think you're a lawyer.
Nope.
And I'm not a lawyer, and I have been threatened several times by Superior Court judges and prosecutors that I better be careful what I do. If I help anybody legally, I'm breaking the law in Quebec. Because there's a thing called a private club. And what that means is that if you're a member of the bar, if you're part of this administration of justice, then doors open and windows open. By the same token, doors close and windows close. And the thing that's most astonishing is that they can bring the blinds and the curtains down to cover their own nonsense. I've been screaming and yelling. I wrote letters to the Prime Minister, to every single member of Parliament, to every news media in the city of Montreal about Mark Machal making this bomb. It's recorded on prosecutor police stuff. And I couldn't get justice. And now I'm interested in people that can't get justice. Now, if I understand correctly, Rino, you were arrested on December the 19th, 2006.
Correct.
And you're facing extradition in the United States of America.
Yes.
And at some time you were represented by a lawyer by the name of Franco Shiro.
Correct.
And my understanding is that you were pleased with Franco, and it seemed that he was doing a good job, and personally you had no problems with him.
That's correct.
Now the trouble is that as we know, time has been flying. Tempus fugit, they say in Latin. And we now look, we're going back December 19th, 2006. And as we're doing the show, it's after Easter 2014. And you're still not extradited.
Nope.
You wrote a bunch of money in defense lawyers in Canada and the United States.
Yes, I am.
And the trouble is that had you had no lawyer, I've looked over the papers. I've got some knowledge of law. I've looked over a lot of your papers, Reno, and it seems to me you'd pretty well be where you were today, even if you hadn't had a lawyer and you hadn't spent a fortune.
That's absolutely correct.
And now, I was at court with you a number of months back when the co-accused in this extradition case were all lined up in the highway, in the alleyway, the corridor of the courtroom, the hallway of the court. And I was watching the lawyers were going between the accused, and you accused, by court regulation, you're not allowed to talk to each other.
Correct.
So you accused are gathered together, and I'm listening very intently to the lawyers because the lawyers didn't seem to know anybody except their particular client mostly, and they were promising all kinds of possibilities. They were going to fight extradition with a thing called the Catroni factors. Have you done any research as to what the Catroni factors are?
Yes, I have.
Did Catroni win on the Catroni factors?
No, he didn't.
So they're famous. The Catroni factors are named to fight extradition, and Catroni himself didn't win.
No, he didn't.
But all of the accused looked pretty excited when they were listening to their counsel talk about Catroni factors.
Well, we thought we had a case. They had us believe that we had a good case using the Catroni factors.
The other thing is that you, more than most of the accused, I'm sure you haven't been able to talk with them, you're not checking, but I know a couple of them, and from what I've seen and what I heard in the hallways, you seem to be pretty near the only guy who's doing all kinds of legal research on your own.
That's correct.
And now you've heard of a thing called Stinchcomb.
Absolutely.
Now, could you tell our audience in layman terms, because you're not a member of the bar, you've never graduated from law school, you're pretty well self-taught. When I say Stinchcomb, would you tell the listeners what Stinchcomb means?
Well, Stinchcomb is there's a jurisprudence by the name of Stinchcomb, which I guess in layman terms, and as simply put as I can, would be in Canada, if you're accused of a crime as a citizen of Canada, our laws protect us and give us rights to full disclosure of all the evidence, notes, recordings, anything that's in the hands of law enforcement prosecution needs to be turned over to the accused.
So now my understanding, because I watch a lot of American TV and movies and stuff, and we all know that on TV and in the movies it's crazy nonsense because most people aren't lawyers. So that on television, the defense pulls a witness and then the prosecution pulls a witness, and we know in reality that's not the case. But this Stinchcomb business now, and I'm familiar with that too, there's Stinchcomb and O'Connor, there's a couple of these jurisprudence considering disclosure of police evidence. It's absolute in Canada.
Absolute.
Now, the trouble with this extradition is that all of these lawyers, including Franco Shiro, who was collecting money like everybody else, these lawyers were all saying that they were going to court to get disclosure from the Canadian authorities. Is that correct?
Correct. I did find that a bit strange, but they seem to think that there was something of a flaw of some sort.
And it turns out that the Crown representative, I forget her name, Anna told us anyway.
Antonopoulos, Konstantina Antonopoulos.
Konstantina Antonopoulos. She's a very nice lady. She's very polite with you.
Very polite and very intelligent.
Very intelligent, very professional. And when she talks, it seems to me, because I haven't spoken with her, but I've seen her work, she's very clear. Stinchcomb is Canadian, but the problem in the United States, you're going to get disclosure when you get there if you're lucky.
Correct.
And now the trouble is that I find, from my own personal experience, noting that I had gone to deontology about this bomb, I had proof that the police had lied under oath. I've never lost my house. I've been screaming this on the airwaves for years. That anybody that would listen, radio, TV, I've sent it out to everybody. I can't get the police ethics to check. And the police ethics listed all of the cops involved, so we couldn't prove this perjury. If my perjury wasn't a true charge, they could have sued me and taken my house. But now in your case, they're now saying, and according to the government lawyer Anatopoulos there, this nice lady, you guys, according to Canadian jurisprudence, have no rights. It's simple, it's clear. You've since read the jurisprudence.
Yes.
So that, in essence, all of these 20 or so defense lawyers that were taking money from their clients, they were less instructed, less knowledgeable than the prosecutor.
Yes, you can easily say that.
And now, it seems to me that while all of these lawyers, and you had the prosecution outnumbered 18 to 1 or 22 to 1 or something, and between all of these lawyers, I saw them myself, they were looking for various reasons why you guys shouldn't be extradited. And my understanding is the grounds that they were using, that you guys were all paying for, you guys and girls, none of them really are applicable.
Correct.
So that, in other words, a lot of money has been spent on defense that the average citizen, well, I'll use the term dummy, it's a little bit rude, but if we weren't dummies, we wouldn't hire lawyers. We'd do it ourselves. So that all of you dummies standing in the corridor, trusting in the Canadian judicial system, thinking that all of these lawyers in unison agreeing on these grounds, you were confident of the legal team, not only because you had a good lawyer, you thought, but there were so many other lawyers that were all saying the same thing.
Essentially.
And it turns out, it seems to me that it's nothing but a money grab. That's my words, not yours. But one of the problems I want to talk about, Reno, is that you've got a brother by the name of Tony.
Yes, I do.
And Tony's often in the newspaper.
Yes, he is.
And the trouble is, from my own research, because when I do interviews, I like to do research on my own, is that the police have searched your brother's office and house and all kinds of things several times over the years. And there's a lot of smoke and no fire.
That's correct, Barry.
So in the media, if you want to sell a newspaper, all you got to do is put Tony Magi, and the newspaper's going to sell. It could be about grow-dyed cookies for all we care.
Yes.
And the trouble that you have, from what I understand, is that this extradition situation is a conspiracy of sorts that lasted, according to the evidence, I'm going by the evidence, well over 2 years. And the authorities accuse you of being in the last 5 days.
That's essentially correct, Barry.
And the trouble with the last 5 days story is that although they arrested for this extradition, give or take 22 people, because the number has varied, they haven't arrested everybody, but clearly, because I've been given court authority to look through the evidence as your secretary, and I see over 40 names of people that did not get charged in that conspiracy.
Correct, Barry.
So there's a whole bunch of people, and some of them are major figures. There's John Bellini, who got arrested in the United States, and he's the head of the so-called conspiracy. And he got, considering all of his charges and everything, he got what is called in the courts a sweetheart deal.
You could say that.
Because there were threats before they got their hands on him. I was hearing terms of 800 years in jail and stuff.
700-something years, and I think he ended up with 84 months.
And he ended up with 84 months.
On numerous convictions.
And it's a similar situation to my story about Mark Michel, who worked for the police, is that John, what happened is that after he got arrested, he turned around and he exposed what he had been doing. But different than Mark Michel, because I've checked out some of the John Bellini evidence, at least it doesn't look like the authorities have been able to prompt him, pay him, and reward him to clear-cut commit perjury.
That's correct. He said how it is, but he also, I find on some of the evidence, may have been, I don't want to say so much as coached, but kind of persuaded or given led a little bit in answering some of the questions.
I've reviewed some of the evidence with you, Reno, and it seems to me that when a guy carries on a police interview, the person the police are interviewing should not know more after the interview than before they started.
That's essentially correct. They should know the same amount, not more.
Not more. And in the evidence that has been released over the last period of time, because you're a specific case, you've undertaken a great deal of energy to kind of defend yourself and protect yourself. You've got young children who would want to go to California anyway to face justice on a crime, if there was a crime, and we're not going to get into the specifics and details, it was committed in Canada.
Correct.
The people all were in Canada. Now, the trouble we have with your name, Magi, is that by my evaluation, this isn't yours, this isn't anybody else, this is my evaluation. If your last name would have been Smith, Anderson, or pick your nose, I don't think they would have kept you on the list.
They probably still wouldn't. They wouldn't be looking.
Because this guy, John Bellini, his wife, who's a wonderful woman, I've never met her, she's got a couple of kids, and I wouldn't want to see her in jail either, to tell you the truth. I'm sure that this has shocked her, challenged her, and I guess she's rehabilitated herself by now. But she's not facing charges with you, is she?
No, she's not.
And there's no question she had a bigger role. She was also part owner of some of these John Bellini companies or something.
Correct.
So now, other than your family name, which I say, and you haven't said this, but I say this, I think that the authorities would love it if you could flip on your brother or give away some private news or something, because the police have been hounding your brother for years.
That's correct. And several of the times that I was hauled in also, it was implied that maybe they can help me out with California if I can help them out.
So the thing is that they suggested that California could possibly go away if maybe you knew some stuff that could be helpful against your own brother.
Correct.
And the thing that I know is that when I do searches on Tony Magi, they call him a construction magnate, and I don't know all the details. You as a family member and working with your brother, you know that he's done all kinds of buildings in Canada. Paid land tax, sales tax, whatever taxes are involved, real estate taxes. And like I said at my trial, when the judge, Jean-Guy Boulard, said, Mr. Anderson, why do you need to have Gilles Desbiens, the vice president of McCready private agency, take the stand? And my answer to him was, for over 11,000 hours of surveillance by that private agency, they didn't have a lot of evidence. And with all of these searches and things against your brother, his office, and I don't suppose you know the details. Maybe you do. I'm not going to ask you for them. But I suspect that Tony spent a pretty penny just to protect his own self in this defense business, hasn't he?
Yes, he has.
And just before I came here, I looked. The mayor of Quebec City has gone on the record saying if Tony Magi's involved with the hotel in Quebec City called the Concord, then they won't allow it. And the fact is that your brother is mistaken with somebody else in Quebec City anyway.
Absolutely correct.
Now, your brother, I don't know if he's in therapy or not, but he should be in therapy for the fact that they won't let him go, no matter where he goes, where he comes. They're accusing him of things. They're not proving anything, but his name is now synonymous with do not do business with.
Correct.
And it's not fair.
No, not at all.
Because we see on TV, I remember when the Oklahoma City bomb went off. It hit the news up in Chicago that a terrorist was trying to leave the country, going back to Lebanon, with a bomb-making device.
Yes.
He was bringing a bomb-making device. This is when we thought it was Al-Qaeda again. It's always Al-Qaeda. 9/11 was done by the Americans. We know that. Why haven't they released the photographs from the Pentagon when they supposedly got bombed by a plane? Because they didn't get bombed by a plane. So now we get back to this case, and as far as your brother's situation, he's done a lot of building. He's having trouble now, I suppose, getting partners and stuff to do work, all based on insinuations and allegations.
And false allegations, yes.
Much like that terrorist that was arrested in Chicago. It turns out, because he was Lebanese, and we like it when they're Arab looking, that right away makes them. It turns out that the 911, 911's a separate issue, but the Oklahoma City bombing was done by Timothy McVeigh, who considered himself a real American and was fed up of the government being out of control.
Correct.
And he was put to death, and they tried to ridicule him even when they put him to death. He went to death like a soldier, like an honorable person, because he was fed up with the kind of injustices taking place to your brother. Now, I don't recommend your brother go postal and start shooting people, but they are giving him a hard time. They're even trying to get his own brother to find something against him. I looked through the papers. There have been so many police informants against you, your brother, and this guy, John Bellini, and every single one I've seen, like this Mark Michal. Mark Michal committed perjury in court, was caught by my judge, Roland Matt. Roland Matt knew he committed perjury, but at that time, I still had two lawyers. So I wasn't allowed to fight because, you know, you've been told in court too. You don't know what you're doing, eh?
Correct.
You've gone to court, they say, get a lawyer because you don't know what you're doing. But you're no further ahead than if you had 10 lawyers, are you?
That's right.
And then as far as this extradition is concerned, one of the things that you have, I believe, is that you had to go to court because Franco Shiro, your lawyer, had made a recording.
Correct.
And that recording was with the prosecutor in Los Angeles, very pretty looking lady, nice lady. I don't know if she's pretty or not. I saw a picture of her, I think. Anyway, she sounds good. She's the kind of a gal that everybody would like, Ellen Marcus Lindsay. And so Franco Shiro called her up.
Correct.
And he said that he did that as a mandate for you because you wanted to have her saying something bad about you. Now, the fact of the matter is that did she say something bad about you on the recording that you heard?
Yes, on the recording that I heard, that I was present. Well, it's on the court record what I said. I mean, you have it there.
Yep.
But there was a few recordings, but on that particular day that I was present, Franco Shiro spoke to the U.S. District Attorney, Assistant District Attorney Alan Lindsay Marcus, and at a certain point in time, he was egging her along. I mean, getting her aggravated, which was part of the mandate along. And at one point, she just blares out, "Well, I don't care." From the documents I have here, the summary that was given to me from the RCMP, from Yves LeBlanc, it shows that your client, Rino Magi, is part of a mafia family, and they're bad people, bad family, and which could be no further than the truth. My father's a hard-working immigrant, hard-working, legal, innocent, and tax-paying and law-abiding Canadian citizen, and couldn't be further from the truth. And anyway, she goes on this rant about being from a mafia family, and he got her quite upset. She says, "Well, maybe I should put him in jail for the things he's never been caught for."
Now, are you sure that that recording was made?
I'm absolutely sure it was made. I was present when it was finished. We listened to it, listened to the entire from beginning to end, and then I went back approximately a week later, 6 or 7 days later, with a co-accused, who my lawyer at the time, who became at the time Franco Shiro, was also representing, and then he went on with a different lawyer, a co-accused called Kevin Power, to listen to that exact same recording again. So not only was I present when it was made, that was the first time I heard it. The second time was right after it was made, and then the third time I heard it was a week later.
So now, back at the Quebec court level, in front of a judge by the name of Labelle, you asked Labelle, because my understanding is Shiro said he wanted off the case. Shiro no longer wanted to defend you. But correct me if I'm wrong, you were already doing your own legal business for 3 or 4 weeks at that point, weren't you?
Correct.
So did Shiro know you were doing your own legal business?
Yes, he knew.
So in spite of the fact that you're on your own, because Shiro was asking for a fair sum of money, considering you'd already given him $24,000. He wanted another $15,000 right away. You were nowhere near finished, and you chose, for a variety of reasons, we don't have to get into details, but financial, as well as you didn't like the direction your defense was going in. You go on your own, and now Shiro asks to get off the case even though you're on your own. Is that basically right?
Basically along those lines, and then there was a series of text messages sent to me from my lawyer Franco Shiro, of which I don't know if we'll cover that, but I eventually went on and proved in court in front of a judge, Michael Stober. We'll get to that again a bit later, but I proved in court because I subpoenaed the security of Rogers
Telephone Company,
which is the service provider, which proved that absolutely the messages came from Shiro's phone at the exact time to the millisecond that they were sent on those dates, and also showed which towers, cell towers it bounced off of, and pretty harsh stuff. I mean, stuff that some of it was just name calling, but other stuff which went on to imply that he would call the prosecutor up in the United States, and maybe she should get a special jail cell ready for me, and basically implying homosexual rape, because he said, "Whose bitch would you be?" and that they should get a special jail cell, and a bunch of other stuff that not so nice, and also probably way beyond anything ethical between a client and his attorney, and between two human beings unethical.
And all of these text messages are before he went to court to no longer work for you.
The last one came, I was in front of Judge LaBelle on November the 4th, scheduled to see him at 9 a.m. He had the gall to send me the last message at 7:28 a.m. November the 4th, an hour and a half before I'm about to see the judge. And I mean, his response to Judge Stober about when the technician proved that messages were sent from that phone over a period of a few weeks. It was that, well, maybe I own 3 phones and they're not always in my possession, and it could have been someone else. I left it lying around. I mean,
well, maybe somebody else used his phone.
Well, sure, 3 phones, and he leaves them lying around at 7:23 in the morning, or on Saturday nights, or on Sunday mornings.
Over what kind of a period of time?
Over a period of almost a month.
So over a month period, all kinds of bizarre times, give or take over a dozen horrible text messages that were all in agreement with each other. So they were all sent by the same person. That we know.
Yes, and my only response after the very first one, which was bad, was sorry you feel this way, and I wished him well. And I told him to take a look at the court transcripts because he had accused me of something which I said wasn't true. I basically said I could no longer afford him, and that we had a difference of opinions, and then that's why I didn't want him as a lawyer anymore. I mean, so he knew I was representing myself, and then he went on to have to legally, I guess, say he wasn't representing me. I mean, which was strange. And all I wanted was my recording, which belonged to me, that I mandated him to make with the U.S. District Assistant District Attorney Alan Marcus, which, in my opinion, and a few friends of mine that know a little bit about law, and in his opinion at the time, Shiro, was this is your ace in the hole. There's no way the Canadian government will send you to be extradited when someone is implying that you're from a mafia family, and then they want to put you in jail for crimes that you may or may not have committed because you're not a nice guy. So I mean, all along I was never really that worried, and then the time came, which we got, and I think Barry, you have some of the details there, where things went quite strange, and I'll let you continue if you want.
Yeah, so you turn around now. You told me that you thought the tape was legal because he just in passing mentioned in the phone call, I always take my calls, which of course in Canada now makes that legal.
I told him to say that at the beginning.
I
asked him to because the first recording he made of Alan Marcus, he didn't say that, and I made notes because I happened to have heard that first recording also, and was present for the first recording also.
So the thing that happens now is you seem to have done your homework. You checked with this Rogers Communication. It's a massive telephone internet type company, and you found out that they can show proof of what calls you got and from when, but they no longer can show the text. Is that right?
Correct. I mean, they no longer keep the content of the text messages, which was costly, and the only way you get that is if it's court ordered, and then they can have it. So, because I couldn't understand why Shiro would be sending me these messages, being a lawyer, and being horrible messages, which could and may very well, I haven't crossed that bridge, it's not where I am right now, it's not really my concern, get him in trouble with the Quebec Bar Association. And,
well, he seemed very casual in court, and I remember you remarking that he seemed casual, like he wasn't worried. And as it turned out, when the Rogers technician testified, he advised Judge Michael Stober that they no longer do keep these texts by law because of cost, for a variety of reasons. So Franco Shiro never got tested in court, but he may have known that. Maybe that's why he was relaxed.
Correct, but I mean, he never expected the Rogers technician to even prove that they came from his phone, and he looked a little bit like a deer in the headlights when Judge Stober was asking him, how do you explain them coming from your phone? And again, I want to reiterate, he just blurted out all of a sudden a very funny answer where Stober's expression was kind of a grimace, to say the least, where Shiro says, well, I own 3 phones, and they're not always in my possession, and someone may have taken my phone. It's possible, one time. Not many texts over a period of a month. Highly improbable.
With those bizarre times, the same person with the same, nobody else would have motive to do that.
Absolutely not.
And the other thing is that Shiro had an assistant with him who put into a court record a description of your uh, emotional and physical health. And I thought, isn't that confidential? And did Judge Stober make any comment about those affidavits by a law firm now put in the public record?
No. I mean, there was no relevance, and he kind of like dismissed him. But I mean, for myself personally, that was inappropriate and should not have been put on the public record. It's my personal medical file, and we're not there to be discussing my personal medical history.
Well, didn't you feel, because the judge said several times he was helping you because you weren't a lawyer, do you feel like you were helped in court?
I think after I listened to the recording of Judge Stober and from the transcripts of the recording of that day, I think he interrupted me over 100 times.
He never got you. You never had a chance to get traction and get going.
No, every time I got going, he would interrupt.
Is it fair to say, and you're not allowed to brag about yourself, that's wrong, but you're certainly above average educated, above average intelligence, and you'd be too shy to admit that, but that's a statement of fact. And standing in court in front of a guy, if you don't like the word intimidated, you certainly must have had respect. He's a superior court judge.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, listen, I mean, from the very first time I got in front of Judge LaBelle, and then, a friend of mine told me, be careful, because sometimes when you're in front of a judge, it's possible, I mean, everything is recorded, audio, and there's a court stenographer taking transcripts, but there's no video. And when you start talking, a judge may raise his hands, which normal human interaction, if someone raises a hand, that's a signal to pause or
halt or something.
Halt. And I remember my friend telling me that, and as I started reading my statement into the court that very first time, within seconds the judge raised his hand, but I was also kind of taught like a jockey teaches his horse, that if the judge were to raise his hand, you might want to let him know, Your Honor, are you signaling me to stop or motion me to stop talking? And I'll tell you, Judge LaBelle got quite red in the face and fluttered around like, no, it's okay. And he didn't raise his hand again. And so I've come a long way from that first time to from Judge LaBelle to Superior Court Justice Helen DeSalvo, whom Franco Shiro tried to talk to in the hallway.
In the hallway, talk to the judge for your hearing.
My hearing, and but she had enough. I guess there's a reason she's a Superior Court judge. She mentioned it in court, saying Franco Shiro, I bumped into him in the hallway, just to cover, I guess, her ass, as they say. Right? It's a private club.
It's a private club.
I'm beyond belief, and I'm a believer now that it is. I mean, then going on to Michael Stober. Oh no! Before there was another one, Eliane Perrault, who was also Superior Court judge, and very intelligent, and at one point it almost slipped right over my head, and because I had put in a motion to stay the proceedings. I mean, because of all this nonsense and the things that have happened, and
unfairness in the procedure,
and the government of Canada. Represented by Constantine Antonopoulos, who couldn't be there, and he had one of her assistants, filed first of all, they sent a letter to the judge before going to court, which...
Send a letter to the judge. So you put a petition in, before you can be heard, the other side tips the judge off.
Yes.
That we're coming, and this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, and that you better not listen to the motion, because or else we'll contest it. Well, that's usually done on the day of court. You don't send a letter to the judge. I mean, could you imagine me as a citizen if I had a motion in front of a Superior Court judge scheduled and I decided to fax or mail the judge before my motion to kind of like say, listen, I just want to let you know, psst, psst, let me whisper in your ear something. So, I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous, some of the stuff that goes on. And in front of Superior Court Perrault, she at one point was, reading, about to dismiss, and, I'd asked her, did you read my motion? And she said, yeah, I got my motion right, your motion right here. And I said, excuse me, Your Honor, that's not the question I asked. The question was, did you read the motion? Because the slightest subtleties, to most people, someone say, I have the motion right here.
You thought she answered, yes, she's read it.
Yeah, but then I thought about it. Says, these guys are quite tricky. That's why I said, no, excuse me, that's not the question I asked. The question is, did you read the motion? And at that point, she says, no. So then she had to suspend and read the motion.
So when she's getting ready now, you're in front of this judge, and she hasn't read the petition, but she's read the letter she got.
She definitely read the letter she got from the
prosecutor. So she's tipped off. If you even hear that motion, we're probably going to appeal. They didn't use the word appeal, but they were going to resist, which means appeal. Mm-hmm. And that was good enough. She goes to court and hadn't read the petition. So she was a little bit staggered and surprised and embarrassed, I guess.
Probably that a little citizen who's not a member of the bar would think of asking clearly after she said the motion's here. No, Your Honor, that's not the question. Have you read the motion? And then she had to answer no, and then suspend and read the motion.
Well, we're limited in time because I think we could do 5 or 6 shows on this subject. But in essence now, you finally end up, I think it was after 4 tries in court, you finally end up in front of this judge, Michael Stober. And Michael Stober was a pretty important guy, I think, wasn't he? He had some kind of experience with ethics with the Bar Association of Quebec and so on and so forth before he was a judge. So I'm tempted to say he was handpicked for this hearing because your complaints were about getting this recording from a lawyer. You don't think he gave you fatherly special treatment?
No, I mean, listen, what was supposed to be a 3-hour hearing or so ended up being the entire day. And prior to the lunch break, I mean, yes, when I saw who the judge was, I looked him up, and he was on the head or on a board of the disciplinary committee of the Quebec Bar. So I thought, well, he must have been handpicked because there's a problem here between a client and his lawyer, and so he'll be fair. And prior to the lunch break, when I pretty much in open court proved that Franco Shiro lied under oath, because he said he never sent it. He said he never sent the text messages, and Rogers proved it came from his phone. He said he never received a subpoena, and I proved that the subpoena did go to him.
You had a witness with you when you delivered the subpoena?
When I delivered the subpoena, and plus it was sent by fax, and so I mean, on 3 different occasions, basically, and he stumbled in his own words. So prior to the lunch break, it looked like Judge Stober was being sympathetic and would maybe rule in my favor, or at least, if anything, at the very, very least, do something about this atrocity.
So you go to lunch with a big smile. Looks good.
Yeah.
Feels good so far.
Yes. And that's the way I felt, and almost doing the fist pumping. And when we come back from lunch, and to my complete surprise, and you were there and you saw what happened. Now at this point, he knows where the messages came. His tonality was different. Even his body language was different when we got back from lunch. And
he learned something over lunch.
Well, something happened during that lunch period.
Something happened during lunch period.
A light bulb came on, let's say.
Well, what did he say to Mr. Shiro concerning this taping lawyers without their knowledge? What did he think of that?
Well, he let it know that it was highly unethical, that he looked down and frowned upon it, and he couldn't believe that Franco Shiro, being a former prosecutor himself, and that he had went and recorded a colleague. He asked him a few questions, and Shiro stumbled along with the answers, stating that Magi asked me to make this recording, but I didn't record his call. I recorded someone else's call, a former client who didn't even ask me to make it. And
it's getting stupid.
It was getting quite stupid because the judge asked, well, do you record your calls? No, well, I only recorded 2 calls in my life. So he's only recorded 2 calls, but he records a call for a client that never asked him to record the call. And the call that I asked him to record, he tried to have the pretense that he never made it. So, and he tried to say, well, what motive would he have? And the only thing that after lunch that Judge Stober did say at one point, and if you look at the transcripts, was that you would have plenty of motive to say that the recording doesn't exist.
Depending on what he said on that recording,
there would be plenty of reasons to have motive not to give Mr. Magi that recording.
But before the thing even started, the judge gave Franco Shiro a big problem making sure he wasn't recording anything himself.
Yes, he wanted to make sure he wasn't recording anything that day in the courtroom, and a whole big show. You could have sold tickets. It was a show. A show is what I think it was.
So Shiro, did he say he recorded other things?
He said that he recorded a phone call, not a phone call. He recorded a meeting with a now retired police officer.
Lieutenant Pietro Paletti?
Correct. And that he tried to use that in a court case, which didn't work. And that he recorded this one call with Ellen Lindsay. And I mean, which I know is not true because I was there when he recorded the other call also. So, and also there's a recording that makes reference to several calls with Lindsay when he says he only called her a couple of times.
Now, you got a little bit of media coverage, I understand, from La Presse?
Yes, there was. I mean, there was a reporter there from La Presse, Christiane Desjardins, and she wrote an article calling it, headlining it, Imbroglio entre avocat et son ex-client, which is, imbroglio would be
like a punch-up or a little
a mess,
yeah.
a mess between ex-client and his lawyer. And she did a good job detailing, basically, not taking sides, but just detailing the bizarre answers that Franco Shiro gave. The bizarre, real, ultimately, I won the case. Well, I won nothing.
Oh, you won!
Oh, yeah, I won.
You won!
Yeah.
What did you win?
I won nothing.
But on the paper, they said you won.
Yes. Judge Stober ordered Franco Shiro
to give you what he said doesn't exist.
To give me a recording if it exists and anything that belongs to me. Well, I mean, he just spent the entire day saying it didn't exist. So, I mean, it was quite a mockery of justice. And
but you did get a recording somewhere along the line.
Yeah, I got a recording that didn't belong to me.
So the court ordered you to get a recording. You didn't get the one you wanted that you've heard replayed twice. That day and another day. You didn't get that recording.
No, in December when the first time I got in front of a judge with Justice LaBelle, and he had ordered also Shiro to give me anything that was my property, which is law. And Shiro, not being very happy with that judgment, had delivered to my home by bailiff on a USB in the shape of a pink pig, after making many remarks.
He insulted you about your weight.
About my weight and stuff over all those text messages. On a pink pig, the recording that didn't even belong to me. It was a recording that he made when he was representing co-accused Kevin Power with U.S. District Attorney Lindsay. And
so now this recording that was given to you at that time, and he does talk about you on it, but he was representing Kevin Power at the time of that recording.
Correct.
So that I think that recording belongs to Kevin Power then.
Correct.
So what the hell did you get it for?
Well, because, I mean, he was in a bit of a position where he said he had a recording, but not that. See, he didn't want to give me the recording that I needed. Call it vindictive, call it what you want. That recording in my hands would pretty much guarantee me not being extradited to the United States.
Yeah, because we have a case in Canada, it's called Cobb.
Correct.
Whereby if a prosecutor threatens you that when you get down there you're going to get raped or an unfair sentence or something, Canadian justice, the administration of justice cannot let people be shocked enough that we're going to send citizens to get raped in another country.
Correct. So, I mean, except other than saying and implying the actual homosexual rape, she, on that recording that was made, makes reference to saying that I'm from a mafia family and that I should be sent to jail for the things I've never been caught for. I mean, I think that's a little bit enough to shock the conscience of a fair-minded citizen, saying you're going to be sent to jail for something you've never been caught for.
Well, the other thing is I'm going to make a show right after this one. I'm going to see if I can get it put on. And I'm going to put on the audio of that tape, the Lindsay tape with Franco Shiro on the next show. Mm-hmm. So the listeners that want to hear that can listen to it. On that tape, because I've heard it several times, Shiro, who was not your lawyer yet, was trying to make you look like a really bad guy. And the other guy looked like he called him a peanut. And we don't want to give anybody a hard time, neither Kevin Power nor you, because Kevin and you are, by court order, not allowed to talk with each other. But I've spoken with Kevin, and Kevin is pretty upset that not only did his lawyer give out a copy, it would have been bad enough to give it to you, but now the La Presse has it. I'm putting it on this show because the minute it was put into the public record, it was a public recording.
Correct.
So Kevin Power now, his situation is that he had a lawyer who made a tape for him and then has put that in the public domain, mostly for you. It's not what you wanted, and yet you've got it. I think that you and Kevin have had a bad deal all around.
Yes, I think so.
Now, without getting into the details of the charges you're facing in the United States, in the last 8 years and a couple of months since you were originally charged, and I want to quickly add for the listeners, these delays are, the preponderance of the delays are by the government, not by the defense. Am I correct?
Absolutely correct. I mean,
it took years for them to, they arrested you.
We were arrested in 2006 in the morning, released later on in the afternoon. In 2007, all a year to the date, there was an indictment filed in California. And then they waited all the way till October 17, 2012 to carry out arrest warrants for this extradition, because a authority to proceed was issued somewhere in 2012 September. I mean, and at that point, I mean, years have gone by, and I mean, it's normal to mount a defense, and everyone has their right to their own defense, but mine is quite clear, right? There's absolutely, without a question, beyond a reason, beyond any doubt, because don't forget, now Lindsay's been made aware of this recording that Shiro's made.
Yes.
So she was already, at the time when the other recording was made in 2010, which she was already, prejudging me and sending me to jail for things that maybe I'd never been caught for, and already pretty pissed off at me. Now I have this lawyer who supposedly she was not aware of the recording, according to her. I mean, and when he did make that second one, he told her I record all my calls. She made a flagrant remark saying it doesn't matter, right? So, I mean, she is quite upset now. So, I mean, could you only imagine if she was already upset back then and not being biased, I mean, being very biased and not being fair in the way she would treat me, how would she treat me now?
Well, and I don't want to get too much into specifics, and I don't want to get you in trouble, and you don't have legal counsel with you right now. But I did look over the summary of the case in your particular case, and I looked at a whole bunch of charges that are made there, including the fact that you had defrauded all kinds of people, credit cards and stuff. That's over 8 years ago. How many of those charges have you been facing in court in the last 8 years?
None. And to this day, I still sit here before you without a criminal record. And may I add, no one in my family has a criminal record.
There you go. So all of this smoke and trouble that they've created for poor Tony, the fact that they've harassed you, the prosecutor in California is convinced that you're a crook, you're a fraud artist, you got your wife involved in the deal somehow, and your wife didn't face any criminal charges.
No.
And so the prosecutor, who doesn't know better, all of the evidence is Canadian collected, is my understanding. Canadian search warrants, Canadian wiretaps. They made deals with Canadian rats because several people have now agreed to go state's evidence.
Correct. I mean, what happened was there was one large investigation, and in my case, it spawned in two separate charges. So in the American charge, with the extradition charge, I have no rights as per the Stinchcombe. But because it was one investigation with two charges, one in the Canadian case, that gives me my Stinchcombe right, which allows me access to all the evidence, because it's not right for the Canadian government to decide what they think is appropriate for me. Stinchcombe is clear. It's crystal clear. You made it. It's there. It belongs now also to the accused. Simple.
Anything that the prosecution gathers, and the terms in law are exculpatory, meaning that it could prove you innocent, they're supposed to give you a copy of everything. Because we know now, Dateline in the United States television, and we've got the Fifth Estate here, and Julian Scheer would get off of his phony chair and do an honest story for a change. We're finding out on a regular basis people that have been set up for either murder charges or rape charges, and either DNA or something has exonerated years later. We're very familiar with the fact that the police very often, this cell phone with cameras business is changing things because Rodney King, and I remember they had the riots in Los Angeles over Rodney King, but nowadays we've got video films where police are just brutalizing people. We had the famous Maddox affair in Canada where the provincial police added information trying to go after this family that were accused of importing things through the harbor of Montreal. And the police have been caught many times deliberately breaking law. I'm going to tell you something. I talk about my case with the bomb because I'm waiting for somebody to either do the case. I've been interviewed by Royal Orr on CBC. I've been on French TV several times. He did a couple of shows. The Gazette covered me 13 times. And yet nobody wants to touch the real issue, is that the police committed perjury under oath to get search warrants and wiretaps. Then they committed perjury at my bail hearings so that I would not get bail for all of those times. And the fact of the matter is that the police were the criminals in the deal. And I'm sure, as in your case, we're finding out on a regular basis that so-called informants that benefit can lie like hell. They can set facts up. And might I add, our government likes to have people, whether they're white skinheads or terrorists or something. We create these cells. It's not always because somebody's guilty that they get chased down. But as for your situation now, what is your next level? What's your next level?
Well, my next level at this point is, I've made submissions to the Minister of Canada, Minister McVeigh. This is just the process, the way the extradition law has been set up. And I've detailed quite detail, set out and showed the minister, which works through the IAG, the International Assistance Group, and the information has been sent to the minister and the people at the International Assistance Group. Whereas I plead my case and I show them with great detail and evidence that I believe shows that I cannot get a fair trial if I were sent to the United States. And on that very premise alone, I should not be extradited to the United States. I mean, our Constitution, our Charter of Values, I think it's called our Charter, yes,
Yeah.
Section 6 and 7 of the
Charter of Rights.
Canadian Charter of Rights, protects me from these very things. And
So you think that this prosecutor now, first of all, and it's clear from the evidence, she's been told a whole bunch of things about you that clearly aren't true. It's 8 years later. You haven't been charged for a whole bunch of things that they insinuated. So
Yes.
she's been told lies about you.
Mhm.
She's been told how bad it is. She's been told lies about your brother, who still hasn't been charged 8 years and a couple of months later.
Correct.
And now that the government got in touch with her over this recording, because they wanted to know, and they said that in court. So if she was pissed before, she's got to be pissed more now.
Oh, for sure. I mean, listen, I'm convinced without a doubt, in the evidence and from what I've heard, I mean, along the lines of, I think it was put to me in French that, like I said, 5 days I was involved in a 2.5, almost 3 year investigation. And when they were deciding to arrest me or not with the Canadians investigation, it's along the lines of, on devrait l'arrêter, c'est le frère de Tony Magi, ça va nous amener les fruits.
That's it. We should arrest Rino because he's Tony's brother, and it could bring us some fruits if we arrest him.
Correct. And I mean, I don't know what they thought and what fruit or whatever. I mean, there's no fruit to be given because there's nothing there. And so now they had a problem on their hand. They arrested me when they probably shouldn't have, or I mean, it is what it is. I mean, like I said, there was a lot of people that were on, let's say, the gray area of whether they should be arrested or not. And I'm convinced without a doubt that it was because I was Tony's brother that they arrested me.
But you're in a very lucky position, I guess. Lucky in a bad situation, because my understanding is that everybody involved in the Canadian case, from John Bellini all the way down, he's the head of the organization who's been extremely well rewarded in California. He said the Canadian operation was totally legal.
Yes, and I mean, and John Bellini, in his very own words, I mean, I saw the taped interview
The
that
KGB
the
interview?
KGB interview that they call. He says Rino played a very small part in the lottery, and he went on to say that he is convinced to this day still that it was a legit operation, our Canadian operation, as I believe it was a legit operation.
Now, the problem with the Canadian, of course, operation is there was a fellow by the name of Randy Meserak who I believe had a court order not to be involved in wiretap, but and not to be involved in telemarketing. But other than him, all of the key players were convinced it was a legal operation.
Correct. It was a business-to-business legit operation, and
So
we're not here for that. The day will come in court where I think I'll be vindicated of that.
But because you were charged here, I think that you can consider yourself a lucky guy. You've had a peek at the American situation. Now, we're not going to admit any guilt. We're not going to admit anything of that. We're not touching that.
No.
But let's, on the basis of principle here, assuming that you would have been sentenced and you would have either pleaded guilty or been convicted for the American affair, let's say, what kind of sentence have you suffered in the last 8 years and 5 months since your arrest? Personally, how's it affected you personally?
Well, my life's been a complete disarray. I mean, there was a period of time I couldn't leave the home for, I think, almost 13 or 14 months. I could not leave my house. I mean, I've been blackballed. I've tried to find work. I'm like a pariah in my own backyard. It's caused grief amongst my family. Physical, I can't begin to describe what I used to look like and feel like when I was first arrested till now. It's been hard. I mean, for me, I've been in jail this whole time.
So you have served quite the sentence.
And I continue to serve, and I continue to get prosecuted, and my family continues this prosecution, unjust prosecution, in the media and the police. It's never ending.
Well, I watch a lot of TV and movies and stuff, and Law and Order, that kind of thing. And often, as a citizen watching TV, sitting there eating our popcorn, we look at these cases and we get a guy who murdered 20 people and cut them up in pieces and raped the girls, and they turn around and, of course, as the audience, we say, oh, it's a loophole that they're getting off on. And then they turn around and I hear the lawyers say, the Constitution of the United States of America is on trial. Well, I think here, if we don't have a case of the Charter on trial, what do we have? You've been screwed by your lawyer.
Correct.
You've passed in front of at least 4 or 5 judges counting LaBelle that I've seen. 4 in Superior Court counting the first one. Stober was the 4th. Another one after Stober is 5. LaBelle makes 6.
And Buffoni at the beginning.
And Buffoni makes 7. So there. Now, in front of all of these lawyers, the fact that we've got this recording is going to be on my next show, the Lindsay one, and there's a possibility in a future show, if I get enough requests, you can write to me at Barry Anderson Show, all one word, at gmail.com. If there's enough requests, we'll put on the audio of the Stober hearing. Now, you did get the Stober hearing, didn't you? You got the audio?
I received the audio, but then I put in a written request to Judge Stober to receive the transcripts.
The audio of the decision.
The audio of the decision, sorry, because in the audio, which I didn't know, it's all there except for the judge's decision.
Yeah, because by law, I don't know when they changed it now, for some reason his decision is not...
The judge has to give his okay.
He has to sign off.
So I figure it shouldn't be a problem. I mean, if a judge is confident in their decision, and in which they should be, I mean, when deciding upon and ruling on a matter. So I requested it in writing, and no response. And then I called, and I left several messages, and there was no response. So, I mean, it's for sure. And I spoke to his personal assistant face to face. They came out to see me, and there was no response. So that they would get back to me. It was neither nay nor yay. It wasn't yes or no. Just absolutely ignored all my requests to have the audio of his decision. I have the audio of the case, but the decision I don't have. Now, why would a judge want to not give me the audio? I mean, I have the transcript. I have his ruling, right? Maybe he's not so comfortable with that decision.
The other thing is Stober brought up, he made a big issue of the fact you delivered 2 subpoenas. It's the same subpoena, but you delivered it in 2 fashions to Franco Shiro. A subpoena you call Duque's take-up, which means that...
do it yourself.
Bring it yourself.
Bring it yourself.
And he should have brought the audio. Now, you went to the Superior Court clerk.
Well, what happened was Superior Court Justice Eliane Perrault, when I went to her and was setting the date to have my property released again, more than once now, in front of a Superior Court judge, I wanted the text messages subpoena. Then she says, well, we're not going to do that for you. She blurts out, Ducius tecum, in Latin. Well, I mean, well, I have access to a Latin dictionary. So it meant go do it yourself. So I went to the court clerk, and very nice. She said that these are the papers, and you can do it yourself. I mean, I mistakenly signed on the spot where it says delivered by a bailiff or justice of the
She told
peace.
you to sign it
Yes.
there. I was there.
The only thing that Judge Stolber mentioned was that I should have scratched out where it said justice of the peace or bailiff. But I mean, I brought it with someone else. There was no malintent, and I mean, I'm sure it wasn't such a big thing because he basically implied if you ever have to do it again, scratch out the part that says bailiff or justice of the peace. That's all.
But I've said many times in court in my own case is that if you want to be a good lawyer dealing with the prosecution, you got to go to dental school, because getting any information under Stinchcombe, which is clear, it's like pulling teeth with these guys. And the other thing is you've discovered, I'm sure, that no matter where you go, everybody says, get a lawyer.
Everybody tells me to get a lawyer, from the Superior Court judge to the clerk. At one point was, why don't you have a lawyer? And
the police, everybody says, get a lawyer.
I mean, the first time I called the people at Fido and Rogers, I went to their office. They were very helpful, and I met a wonderful lady who gave me a number, and I called the number, and the person answered right away, and was very helpful at first, and then he says, well, who are you with? Well, like, if I was a lawyer. I said, well, I'm not a lawyer. He said, well, I'm a retired police officer. I can't talk to you. This number that whoever gave it to you should not be calling it. It is only for lawyers or police officers.
So it's the private club across the board.
So I said, excuse me? Oh, no, I can't talk to you. He says, you got to be a lawyer or police officer.
Across the board, it's a private club. So, well, I'm going to tell you something, my friend. I'm afraid we've run out of time. Maybe we'll do another show. Let's see if somebody wants to write in and talk to us. I'm going to do a show real soon, and I'm going to put that Ellen Marcus Lindsay tape on when she was talking to Franco Shiro. So if you like this one, write to your friends, write to me, and then check out our second show with that Lindsay audio. This has been Barry Anderson from Montreal, Canada.
I didn't mean to write that ransom note. It was just a joke, so I can see you again. And how many times must I rob the liquor store to see you more? To just be friends. When you pulled up to that crime scene, I knew it would be nice, but oh so mean. When you pulled out your cuffs and gave me all your affection.